Laurie Grimes, I think, is one of the most misunderstood and misinterpreted Walking Dead characters there is. Now, I've thought about doing a whole video essay in the past and going through Laurie beat by beat and why people are wrong to assume certain things about her, but I decided that a lot of it comes down to this one particular scene, so it might be best just to hone in on this and analyse why most people misinterpret this scene, I feel. Okay, so before I lay out my argument about why I think most fans have gotten the wrong idea about this scene with Laurie, I just want to say it's perfectly alright if you still see things differently by the end of this. If you watch the whole thing and you still believe Laurie is in the wrong, that's your interpretation, and that's fine. All I ask is you approach this with an open mind, okay? And just hear my perspective. And if you're still not convinced, and you don't agree with my take, okay, that's fine. I'll forgive you. But feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, but let's just keep things a little respectful, okay? Let's not be calling Laurie the B word. So the way that I see most people interpret this scene is that Laurie gets pissed at Rick for killing Shane, but that's not what she's pissed at. And on top of that, the reason why fans are annoyed at her is because she basically egged Rick on to kill Shane. I do think it's fair to say that Laurie egged Rick on to kill Shane. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. At the end of Triggerfinger, Rick brings up the fact that he's just killed two people, and Laurie brings up the fact that Rick just killed to protect what's his, and Shane thinks that Laurie and Carl are his, clearly implying that Shane needs to go somehow. Now, she doesn't explicitly say you need to kill him, but the implication is quite clear. But although it's true that she is implying that Rick might need to kill Shane at some point, a lot of time passes between that scene and the scene where Laurie seemingly gets pissed at Rick. Laurie was under the impression that the thing between Rick and Shane is obviously still there, and Shane still has feelings, but at this point Shane is matured, and that's it. And she has a conversation where she basically tries to give him closure, and she apologizes for the fact that they did start this relationship that ended quite, abruptly. Now back to the tent scene. We will eventually get to the Laurie getting mad at Rick scene, don't worry. It needs context first. Now I see a lot of people interpret this scene as Laurie is pitting Shane and Rick against each other. And although she is, technically, I don't think this is malicious. She's not trying to. In this scene, she's simply just trying to warn Rick about what Shane is capable of. Because at this point, Rick does not know that Shane killed Otis. Rick doesn't know that Shane threatened Dale. Rick doesn't know that Shane, is scaring people. And also, Rick doesn't know that Shane assaulted Laurie in the CDC. Because ultimately, Rick has kind of been blinded by his loyalty to his best friend. He's not seeing the flaws. And obviously, recently, after this conversation, a recent event that's happened is the barn attack, where Shane did kind of snap. And for the first time, Rick saw that side of him. So let's just go back to the original scene that we're talking about here. And here's what the showrunner, Glenn Mazzara, said about Laurie's reaction.
Regarding Laurie, what the crap? What was that stuff about getting all mad at Rick for killing Shane? She was totally goaded him into that.
She's pissed at herself. She put these two guys in motion, and I think she's just stunned, and then she
put
realizes,
him in motion all right, Glenn.
Yeah, she did, babe.
So it is true. Laurie is pissed at herself because she put Rick and Shane together against each other, right? But that wasn't malicious. She wasn't trying to do that. She just made a mess of things because she tried to please both parties.
I made a mess of things. And put you and Rick at odds.
So I'm going to break the scene into bit by bit, and we're going to analyze it microscopically, okay? We're going to look at this thing in fine detail.
I'm sure you had your reasons. Is there anything
I killed him.
So first, we have Laurie consoling Rick because the group is pissed at him for keeping the secret that they were all infected. And then Rick coldly tells Laurie, not in a way where she, sits her down and explains the situation. He coldly tells her, I killed him. And this takes Laurie by shock, of course, because this isn't just some guy she banged. This is like a family friend, someone they've known for years. And of course, Laurie did still probably love him a little bit.
I killed Shane. He came at me. Killed Randall to get me into the woods. He planned it.
So as Rick is explaining the circumstances that led up to Shane's death and him killing Shane, Laurie is just listening, right? She's being supportive. She's got her hand on his arm still. If she was generally pissed at Rick for killing Shane, don't you think she would slap him at this instance or get mad at him? But no, she has her hand on his arm and she is simply just listening.
I had no choice. I gave him every chance. And he kept leading me further out. He pushed me, and I let him.
So Laurie begins to remove her hand as Rick further explains. Now there's a few ways to interpret this. The first is that Laurie's just in shock. I mean, regardless of what she thought of Shane, she's known this guy for many years, right? She had a relationship with him. He was her boyfriend for a time. The second way to interpret this is that Rick is telling her this in the fucking coldest manner imaginable. He's not sitting her down, he's just revealing it, not even looking her in the eyes.
After a while, I knew what he was doing, what he was up to. And I kept going. It didn't stop. I could have that. I just wanted it over. Dogging me every step of the way, acting like I stole you and Carl, like I was in the way. I just wanted it over.
So really listen to how Rick is saying these things and what exactly he is saying, and then try and tell me that Laurie's reactions are unreasonable. He's admitting that he had to kill Shane like it was, you know, some unpleasant task, like taking the bins out, right? It's a pretty cold way to talk about murdering someone, even if it was in self-defense. And it is exactly how Shane would act. Rick is embodying Shane's personality here. So Laurie has not just lost Shane, she's also kind of losing Rick in this moment too, because Rick is on a fucking psycho mode right now. What's he going on about? Where's this compassionate Rick? Where's the nice, kind Rick? Where's Officer Friendly? He's gone in this moment.
I wanted him dead. I killed him. He turned. That's how I knew Jenna was right.
I wanted him dead. Okay? Can you see why Laurie is a little bit in shock here? This is not who her husband was, or at least it's not who she thought her husband was. But she's not even mad in this scene. She's just in shock. That's all she's doing. And then, watch this next scene very closely and watch Laurie's facial reaction and listen to what Rick is saying.
Carl put him down.
Now, when Laurie finds out that Carl was the one that put down Zombie Shane, this is what snaps her. She's almost sick to her stomach, in fact. And then, after saying everything he said, Rick tries to console her. And of course, Laurie reacts like this. She's not mad at Rick for killing Shane. She's mad that Carl was the one to put Shane's reanimated corpse down. And by Rick's own admission, he willfully and recklessly continued to let Shane lead him further and further into the woods, knowing full well that Shane was intent on murdering Rick. Now, some people like to blame Laurie for not looking after Carl, okay? At that point, Rick was out looking for Randall, so Laurie was responsible for making sure Carl stayed in the house. And sure, but then you can't expect her to look at Carl 24/7 like a helicopter parent, but I do agree she's somewhat at fault for Carl leaving the house and eventually seeing that. But if you're going to blame Laurie, you also have to blame Rick, because he's the one, again, who recklessly kept going further and further and further. He created this chain of events that allowed Carl to be the one to kill Shane. Well, not kill Shane, Zombie Shane. And yeah, on top of this, Laurie is pissed at herself. Okay, she is taking a little bit of her own anger, her own internal anger, out on Rick. But make no mistake, Laurie is not being unreasonable here. Rick is being a fucking psychopath. He's telling Laurie that he murdered Shane in the coldest manner imaginable, and then he also just drops a bombshell that Carl was the one to put Shane down. It's not what a mother wants to hear. And sure, Laurie is at fault. Laurie did pit Rick and Shane against each other. Not maliciously, but she did. And she is very flawed. She gave Shane false hope. I think, again, she wasn't trying to. She was trying to just give him closure. But to be fair to Laurie on the false hope point, Laurie made it clear, okay, to Shane. She made it very clear that she was loyal to Rick. Now, the fact that Shane took that to mean, oh, I'll kill Rick, then he's out the picture, then me and you eventually can get together. The fact that Shane took that interpretation is on Shane. It's not on Laurie. Shane's a big boy. Shane's a man, okay? He's not a child. She doesn't have to treat him like he's, got special needs. He knows full well what he's doing. And yeah, I think she is in shock that Shane did try and kill Rick as well. Because, again, like I said, she was under the impression that things were on the mend. So there you go. I'm not totally sweeping for Laurie. I will admit that she is somewhat at fault here. But let's be clear. In the Rick, Shane, Laurie fiasco, who's the person most at fault? It's not Rick. It's not Laurie. It's fucking Shane. Shane was the one who decided to try and kill Rick. So who's the second person most at fault? Well, sure, I think it's probably Laurie. I think it's fair to say it was Laurie. So yeah, Laurie's at fault, Shane's at fault. But in this scene, can we just admit that Rick is being a fucking psychopath? The way that he is revealing that he killed Shane, the cold demeanor, and just dropping the bombshell casually that, yeah, Carl was the one to put zombie Shane down. Can we just acknowledge that Rick is being unhinged here? That's all I'm trying to argue, okay? Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and let me know how you've interpreted this scene, because I'm hopefully breaking it down in this way is giving you a new perspective. And if you are unconvinced, that's fine. Tell me why in the comments. Thanks for watching.